second to none. The man with the golden gun.
Cheers.
Cheers. The man with the golden gun. The 9th Eon Bond film. This was my favourite as a kid.
Really?
When I was growing up, I mean very little. Like I'm talking before I was 12. This was my favourite one. I think ultimately it's just because of Scaramanga. And then from 12 on up, I think it's getting further down my list of favourites. So I wouldn't even call this a middling Bond. I think it's towards the back end, but there's still things in it I like.
I'm now aiming precisely at your groin. So speak or forever hold your peace.
There are bits in it that are enjoyable. It's never dull. There are some of the later Moors get dull, which this never does, but it's pretty weak, I think.
It feels cheap.
Yes.
And what's interesting is as we've gone through the Bond films this time, doing a bit of reading into them at the same time, and realising we've reached this point where after You Only Live Twice, they really didn't want to spend money. They knew they were going to get a certain amount of box office, and if people are going to come, so let's keep the budgets down. And On Her Majesty's Secret Service didn't feel too cheap. The 70s ones so far, Diamonds Are Forever, Live and Let Die, and The Man with the Golden Gun, feel like B movies.
Yes, yeah, they do.
Well, have you?
We've been doing the drinking game, where it's a James Bond drinking game. So the rules are kind of what you imagine. I won't say them here, but they're down below.
Every one of these that we've done beforehand, we've watched the movie, done the drinking game all the way through, and then we've immediately done the chat about the film.
Mm-hmm.
This is 2 days after we did this because we were absolutely hammered, and not because of the film.
With the compliments.
Foo yuck.
But this was very few drinks. This was 78. The problem was we were absolutely hammered when we started watching it.
Yeah, we met at Kew Bridge, had some lovely sort of little cans in the park. Nick Frost was there, not with us, we just saw him in the distance. And then along the River Thames, stopped off and had some Guinnesses outside on the river. Came back to mine, then started watching the movie. It was a huge mistake.
I'm starting to think it was a bad idea to watch this.
I'm starting to fall asleep.
Yeah, me too.
I was asleep, I would say, for a third of the film.
Yeah, the middle third, yeah.
Yeah.
Where does he get his little trousers?
But the drinking game, the reason it was so low is that this is, I think, the only James Bond film where he kills one person. There's not many explosions. It's quite low on action.
It's low on action. Well, it's high on chases. But it's low on Bond killing people. It's low on gadgets.
Yes.
It's low on Bond drinking.
Yep.
Which is ironic.
Foo yuck.
Foo yuck.
Plot of this is that MI6 receive a golden bullet in the post, and it has 007 scratched into it. And they interpret that as a signal that the famous but secretive international hitman Scaramanga is going to go after Bond. Mm-hmm. And Bond decides, instead of waiting for Scaramanga to come to him, he's going to go for Scaramanga. And that is essentially the plot in a nutshell. Later on you find out that it wasn't that Scaramanga's girlfriend sent it to Bond because he wants Bond to kill Scaramanga, and then in a massively contrived twist, it also involves a subplot about the Solex agitator and the oil crisis, and it starts to mix in with Bond's previous mission where he was trailing an energy scientist. And that's basically it.
Well, when you say that plot, that sounds great, except for the agitating Solex agitator side plot. That sounds fantastic.
This is the part I really like. Now that's what I call solar power.
This is the movie of preposterous coincidences. The big one is the plot coincidence that Bond is going after Scaramanga, and Scaramanga just happens to have been employed to assassinate the man that Bond was up until the beginning of the movie, following as part of a different case. Ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. That's the real sort of big insulting to your intelligence one. Not the most annoying one though. The most annoying one, the most annoying two, is that the worst character from the previous movie, who has no business being in Thailand, just happens to be holidaying in Thailand at the time that Bond is there. And on two separate occasions, Bond bumps into him right as he's about to get into
one of the biggest cities in the world.
Either right when he's about to get into a chase or in the middle of a chase. And so for the purposes of just comedy, you get another two ludicrous coincidences.
Oh, you is ugly.
Intelligence insulting coincidences.
Yes, it really is. Lazy. It's lazy.
Yeah, Shia LaBeouf keeps popping up and having sex with Roger Moore. He's here again!
I don't understand that reference.
Nymphomaniacs. Shia LaBeouf just keeps popping up, doesn't he?
Yeah.
We saw it in the cinema.
We saw it in the cinema. We loved the part one and didn't love the part two.
This is the part I really like.
It reminds me a lot, or should I say, Quantum of Solace reminds me of The Man with the Golden Gun. It's the second Bond film for a Bond actor. Quantum of Solace could have the most simple of
premises,
which is, at the end of the last film, Eva Green is dead. Vesper is dead, and he knows there's this secret organisation. He goes and finds them. That sounds great. Anyway, we sort of got that, but they then also threw in someone's trying to control the water supply of Bolivia. And again, it's this environmental subplot which absolutely detracts from the main story. Even though I'm pro, the environment, I want the environment to continue being great.
At no point have you ever said that Bolivians shouldn't have access to drinking water.
Oh, never.
Never. He's never said that. He never claimed.
Not once.
You're right. That's a really good point. In both cases, it's a movie with a very, very simple plot, which is muddied by a sort of an extra unnecessary subplot.
Solix agitator, sir. The essential unit to convert radiation from the sun into electricity on an industrial basis. Well, it's only about that size.
It won't take me long to check out Gibson's efficiency claim on this. This is really exciting now.
With Scaramanga, it's this idea of an equally capable man, but who, at some point years before, went down the opposite path.
Yes.
Equally intelligent, equally resourceful.
Well dressed.
Yeah, but at some equally likes his drinks. He's got his drink. He likes his fine food.
Ah, mushrooms.
He's got his taste for women. But at some point in the past, instead of deciding he's going to go and kill for Queen and Country, he just decided he's going to go and kill for a shitload of money.
Yes.
And
Sounds great.
Which is great, but as the movie goes on, it feels like the focus just completely drifts away from that.
I think the big saving grace of the movie, or the most positive thing about the movie, is Christopher Lee is fantastic as Scaramanga. Scaramanga is my favourite of his... Well, no, The Wicker Man is my favourite.
Lord Summer Isles.
Yes. Also starring Brick Eklund. Brick
Eklund?
Brick.
Come on, Brick.
Mrs. Sellers. The happily married Mrs. Sellers.
Yeah.
The landlord's daughter. If you had a different actor or someone a little bit more boring, I think the whole film would have sunk. And I think Christopher Lee is a sort of buoyancy aid that's keeping it just about above water.
Yeah, that's fair.
Comes to Bond, you disappoint me. You get as much fulfillment out of killing as I do, so why didn't you admit it?
I admit killing you would be a pleasure.
You should have done that when you first saw me. But then, of course, the English don't consider it sporting to kill in cold blood, do they?
Don't count on that.
Also, another thing that we forgot to mention, Christopher Lee, Scaramanga, Ian Fleming's cousin.
And all you have to do is drink, 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 drink,
duck.
With inflation, I think his price is now currently something like $5.5 million. It's not that much to murder. I mean, you know, it sounds like not a bargain, but it's like kill a
to murder somebody, $5.5 million.
Yeah.
We come from different worlds, clearly. It's a lot of money.
It is a lot of money, but if you're gonna, I want you to kill a guy and get the solar agitator. That's
$5.5 million. How'd you earn $5.5 million unless you're a Russian oligarch?
Yeah, but you think about like the army go in with spy helicopters that go under the radar, and it's all cost billions. $5.5 million, kill anyone, one shot. He's never missed. Bargain.
That's a lot of money for one bullet.
It's gold.
It is.
Where angels fear to tread, I say, choose your moves, let's hit the red eye!
So it's his second movie. This is like the least Roger Moore of all Roger Moore's Bond films. He's kind of joyless in this. I don't want to say he's a little bit nastier, but he's a little bit more of a prick in it.
He's horrible in it. The character, not Roger Moore, but the character of Bond in this, I would say, is actively nasty. In Live and Let Die, he does the rather horrible thing of putting all the cards of lovers in the deck to trick a young virgin into sleeping with him. In this, he's so mean to Mary Goodnight, and he's even nastier to the woman who's trapped in an abusive relationship. It's her pleading for help. So she finds out, she knows that James Bond is the most dangerous spy in the world because Scaramanga has a Madame Tussauds
waxwork, of it.
Yeah. And so she sends the golden bullet as a sort of plea. She could have, I think a letter would have been better.
Yes!
Detailing the issue. I know where the most famous assassin in the world is. Here, MI6.
Yeah, there's a lot of room for confusion this. Fuck yeah, I've just been sent a fucking bullet. Someone's after me. She hasn't really thought it through, but yeah, it's her plea for help.
Yes.
She's trapped in an abusive relationship. She is so terrified that she wants the most famous spy in the world. And that's a problem. If you're a famous spy, you're not very good at your job.
No. There's a Madame Tussauds waxwork for you.
Yeah. Yeah, this is her plea, please. You're the only way I can get out of this. And he does treat her like a bit
The
of a piece
very
of shit.
first scene he meets her, by this point she hasn't said, I sent you the golden bullet. He's smacking her about.
Oh, you're hurting my arm.
I'll break it unless you tell me where those bullets go.
No, I can't. I don't know.
I said where?
And there's a bit where her Swedish accent comes out when she goes, I don't want you to twist my arm again.
I don't want you to twist my arm again.
And for some reason, I don't want you to twist my arm again is in my head, I'd say every week that pops up for some reason, and I don't know why.
I don't want you to twist my arm again.
But he's beating her around. The next time he sees her, he's about to, Roger Moore her. And then he goes, get in the closet. And he puts her in the closet and then has sex with the other woman and goes, I want you to bring Scaramanga, you're the one that saw the golden bullet, and, figures out what's happened. And the next time he sees her, she's been shot dead by her abusive boyfriend, and Roger Moore doesn't give a damn. It's horrible. Let alone how he treats this woman.
Women, walkie-talkie. Good night. Where are you?
Somebody locked me in a boat.
In a what?
Both Britt Eklund and Maud Adams in this, in different ways, are kind of punching bags. Maud Adams is like a literal punching bag.
I don't want you to twist my arm again.
And Britt Eklund is the sort of intellectual, the verbal punching bag. You're in no sort of doubt from almost the minute that Bond meets her that he thinks she's a pain in the arse.
Yes.
She's a pain in the arse. She talks about how they've sort of met before. There's maybe an implication that they've slept together before. And she's a nuisance to him.
The keys.
I haven't got them.
Oh. Good night. Where are the car keys?
One of the other things I loved as a kid, and now don't like at all, is Knick Knack.
That's interesting because I hated him as a kid. And I was always so annoyed at the end where Bond doesn't murder him.
Hey, what
You
It's-
fucking go!
What did you do with him?
What do you think?
Oh, James, you didn't.
Yes, I damn well did.
This is the last film with the partnership of Chubby
Yeah.
and Harry Saltzman. Apparently they were hating each other by the end of this. What's interesting is I read an eye this
Yeah,
would be-
I can sympathise with that. They didn't get along, and then Harry Saltzman sold his rights to the Bond films.
Apparently in scouting for locations, they thought the Middle East might be a good idea to film in. Because they'd seen a movie which was unfinished at the time called The Lover's Wind. They see that there's this ancient lost city in Iran that looked amazing. When they arrived, Chubby Broccoli was strip searched. They boarded a very small plane to go to this lost city, but they never got there. They arrived in a completely separate city where the mayor of the town put on a big lunch for them, and Chubby Broccoli lost his mind and was sort of screaming and said, it's 140 degrees, I'm not sitting here for 3 hours, so got straight back on the plane. And then when they're on the plane, the thermal updrafts were so bad that the plane was rocking all over the place, and they all thought they were going to die. Anyway, they decided to not film in Iran.
In Iran.
Instead, they go to Southeast Asia and Hong Kong.
Yeah.
And lovely locations.
Yeah, very good. Yeah,
Really
great.
good locations.
Although, one of the more intelligible conversations we had when we watched it was, do you really feel that they get the best out of Hong Kong?
No.
You don't. You don't get much of a sense that they're even, apart from in the bay, some of the shots in the bay which are really nice.
Yes, of the sunken ship.
When they're in Kowloon, it almost looks like it's a set.
Well, it's a bit of a shame because you have such a wonderful skyline. I mean, it was different, I guess, in the 70s. I lived there for a while, and you came out to visit me in 2019 on about the hottest weekend I think ever recorded. It was so hot, and I'd planned a big walk.
Yeah, two big walks.
Let's go up the mountain and down the mountain. But it's a bit of a shame because I think Hong Kong's one of the most stunning places on earth. And when he arrives in Kowloon, where the boats go, and then he's picked up by Goodnight, and she drives him to the Peninsula Hotel, which is a 45-second walk from there, and then later she's going we got to go to the Bottoms Up Club, which is on a street which is just round the back of the Peninsula Hotel, and then he gets on a boat and they say, Kowloon's over there!
Kowloon's over there!
You've not gone on Hong Kong Island yet. You've been in the smallest little area. It's like they basically we've shot it in LA and it's just outside Man's Chinese Theatre and an alleyway out the back. It's a very small area, so they don't really get much use of it. I think they do much better with their Thailand location
Definitely.
shooting. This is, it was my favourite film my favourite Bond film as a kid. And this is the Bond film where I would say I've been, luckily, to almost every location in it. Lived in Hong Kong, went to all those places. And then in Thailand, I went to the kickboxing arena and went to a bunch of the different locations in Thailand. But of course, they filmed down near Phuket. They filmed this wonderful island, Scaramanga's hidden base, and it wasn't a big tourist attraction back then. And now, I was one of them, it's flooded with tourists, this area, to the point where it's actually not sort of depressing. And they now call it James Bond Island, which is also not true. It's Scaramanga's Island.
Yes. One of the received wisdoms about this is Live and Let Die is the blaxploitation Bond. The Man with the Golden Gun is the Kung Fu Bond. They were sort of taking advantage of things that were popular in cinema at the time. That's a sort of a tag that has stuck to the Man with the Golden Gun. I think it's the Kung Fu Bond. There's actually not a huge amount of Kung Fu in this.
There's a scene.
There's one scene in the middle which does shoehorn in a bit of martial arts. Not very good martial arts either, it's pretty underwhelming. The Man with the Golden Gun came out in 74, 74. Enter the Dragon was what, 72? 73.
Yeah.
So we're a year behind. And it's this slightly odd thing, well, okay, well, if we're going to take advantage of the Kung Fu craze, let's stick in some really good Kung Fu. It's not very good. It doesn't sort of stick in your mind.
It feels like, even though Bruce Lee was on the Green Hornet, it feels like a 60s or 70s American TV show doing Kung Fu.
Yes.
Not a Hong Kong Kung Fu film of the 70s.
It's they haven't taken advantage of it and done the best. You've got an opportunity there to, well, let's stick some fucking... hip an MI6 man in Hong Kong. The man that they got to play could be superb at it, but you never really get a chance to go, okay, fine, this 20 minutes in the middle where they've just bunged in a load of martial arts, it's a bit daft, but at least they put some superb action scenes in here. What you get is shoehorned in martial arts and not particularly exciting martial arts.
It doesn't help that also basically Roger Moore ridicules martial arts. Roger Moore in fight scenes is embarrassing and it's sort of a joke. But then to have like, it's him versus the most dangerous man. This is a great point to show that Roger Moore's strengths in Bond is his humour and his sort of charm. It just doesn't work. Another thing that doesn't quite work is, for some reason, his nieces are with him?
Yeah.
I hope you don't mind giving my nieces a lift.
Good evening.
Why are his nieces from Hong Kong in Thailand in their school outfits? But interesting enough, one of the girls, one of his nieces, is the smoking woman from Kung Fu Hustle. There's a part of the film that's set in Beirut.
Yeah.
And of course it's just pine wood. It's two sets.
Fair enough.
He's meeting the belly dancer. And there's a moment where he goes to the room and starts flirting with her and she's immediately interested.
Ah, mais oui, Bill!
He swallows her belly button piercing. Surely, isn't it attached? Can you swallow it? It's like swallowing an earring.
How does he get that out?
He shits it out.
Well, how does he suck it out of the belly button?
Oh yeah. Ah! His plan was to rip out her belly button with his teeth.
I believe
Mais oui, Bill!
I've lost my charm!
Not from where I'm standing.
There's this crappy fight sequence.
Fuck me, it's bad.
There's a bit which is kind of a long shot and they hit the mirror and it just moves and you see everyone filming.
It comes just before the kill.
I would say that Lulu's a terrible choice to sing a Bond song. Complete sort of, huh?
I don't know that Lulu specifically is the problem. It's that the song is awful, feeble.
It's really bad. It's one of the worst.
It's a contender for worst ever Bond theme. Annoyingly, it's very, very catchy, and I sing it a lot when I'm drunk.
Yeah.
If you want to get rid of someone, the man with a golden gun will get it.
The innuendo is so on the nose that it's actually kind of repulsive, the song. You know, it's just cock, 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 cock. He comes just before the kill.
It just sounds really childish. I mean,
yes.
Really stupid.
Yeah.
It sounds like a joke song.
Mm-hmm.
I don't necessarily think it's Lulu's fault. And maybe you could say that at least it's a sign of the Bond movies, the production trying to move with the times. You know, you've had Matt Monroe and Nancy Sinatra and Tom Cruise. Tom Cruise?
I like that old rock and roll.
Although Tom Cruise does always run while others walk.
He does, yeah.
Yeah.
Won't fucking stand still, the lunatic.
I like that old rock and
It's a feeble, risible, awful song. It's awful, and what's annoying is it's so fucking catchy.
Yes.
That when I'm drunk, I sing it a lot.
John Barry, I very rarely have anything negative to say about him. This is not one of his best scores. And he himself has said it's his least favourite score he's ever done. He was only given 3 weeks to compose it, and I think you can tell.
I don't think there's a lot that we really need to say that hasn't been said. Everybody knows that this is an incredible stunt. It's the greatest car stunt in a Bond movie, and you could make a strong argument for it being the greatest practical stunt with a car in any movie ever.
It's astonishing.
And it's completely ruined.
One of the first stunts that was calculated by a computer.
Yeah.
The whistle. Both John Barry and Guy Hamilton regret the whistle.
And so they should.
Funhouse. As a kid I loved it. It doesn't work.
Again, weird thing, as a kid I never did. Never liked it.
You were a child with better taste than
I was a cynic even as an 8-year-old, apparently. I love the idea of, the test of wills, the test of skill between these two guys in some strange setting, or something that focuses their duel, makes it more difficult or something. But I don't. The idea of Funhouse, I never got it. Never understood it. Scaramanga's silly waxworks of
Al Capone,
cowboys. There's all these sort of purple and red lights.
The Duelists is, I think, one of the... I love The Duelists.
It's great, yeah.
It's one of my favourite Ridley Scott films. The final duel at the castle, with the sort of around the outside, I do kind of know that the layout of James Bond Island, it's tiny. There are the 2 beaches, and there's nowhere else you can walk. There's the beach that it begins on, and it kind of goes around, and then there's the second beach with the rock structure in the distance. So they couldn't have a sort of, where is he, where do you go, duel. But then don't film it there. Or we film it on another island and have them in the jungle. Have them in Thailand with... He's got his golden gun and he's got his Walther PPK, and they're in the bush. They are hiding behind trees. It'd be so exotic. And the fact that at the very end, James Bond, the plan is, there's my waxwork model. I'm going to get out of all of my clothes.
Foo yuck.
What the fuck have I written? Oh, God. Okay.
Big Xmas sex.
Big expensive set.
Oh yes, that!
The big expensive set, which didn't need to be made, is one of these things you go, you put your money in that? And Scaramanga's Island, it's fueled by some sort of cold things. And they built this huge set to explode that adds nothing. You don't have a good sequence in it. You have, Brick Ekland hitting a guy on the back of the head with a spanner and him falling in a pool.
I love the idea that this huge power plant is all controlled by one man.
Good night. Good night.
Good night, sir.
Strange one, this, because it's Roger Moore, who you always figure is the kind of the most light-hearted, fun of the Bonds. It's him at his nastiest, but the movie itself is so awash with comedy. We don't have a fun Bond in a sort of serious film. You have a too serious Bond in a stupid, idiotic film. Apart from Christopher Lee, there's very, very little to like about this.
I like Christopher Lee. I like the locations. Man with the Golden Gun.
This is the part I really like.
Mushrooms.